What's up, friends? It's Haley, aka Bird,
and Randy,
and you're tuning in to the Give 'em the Bird podcast.
This podcast is all about challenging what it means to be healthy and fit. It's about celebrating sustainable behavior change and non-scale victories.
And most importantly, it's about giving the bird to the diet industry and societal expectations of body size. Why? Well, because at the end of the day, you have an entire life to live that does not require your body look a certain way.
Thanks for tuning in.
Now, let's give 'em the bird.
All right, welcome back to GTB. This week we are talking about a little something different. We are talking about empowering women through creative projects. And we're going to focus a lot on photography specifically because Haley and I actually together did one of these creative projects. So I, as a photographer, have always loved photo shoots that just showcase the power of women. And I had run across a few images on social media of women wearing essentially flower tops. So instead of a shirt, they had flowers that would cover the top half of their body, usually like stuffed into their jeans or their bottoms or whatever. And I just thought it was so cool. I love the contrast of like the beautiful flowers and like the kind of edginess of the jeans. And I felt like the power and just awesome vibe that I got from seeing the women in these images, I just freaking loved. So I was like, I need to do this someday. And I'd been putting it off and putting it off. And finally, I was just like, I'm going to do it. And I put on my Instagram story, like an example picture, and I was like, who wants to do it? And I dropped a little box and I got, I don't know, 4 or 5 women that were interested. And I was shocked because I was like, nobody's going to want to take their top off for me. But lo and behold, they did. And Haley was one of them. And it was just it was such a fun day. And so anyway, Haley, I just wanted you to tell me a little bit about your experience with the photo shoot and like, you know, how you felt going into it, how you felt during, and then maybe how you felt after when you saw the images or when you went home.
Totally. Yeah. I think going into it, first when you posted that on Instagram, it was almost like in your response to Who Wants to Be My Co-Host, it was like a hell yes immediately for me when you posted like who wants to.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, like who wants to take their top off. I was like, for you, Randy? Absolutely. So I was pumped about it right away. And it's funny because one of my friends who's a photographer, she had recently shared on her story, I don't remember if it was a photo that she had taken, but of somebody else who had done something similar. And I remember I had messaged her and been like, oh my God, this is so cool. And that was, I don't know, weeks or maybe a month or so before you posted. So then when you did, I was like, hell yes, like this is just cool. And I think it's also like something about, I think it's this like giving the bird to societal expectations of what it means to be a lady, right? Like I'm going to take my top off and cover up my tits with flowers and give a big F you to people who think that that means something that it doesn't or whatever. So going into it, I was really, really pumped. It's so funny because I didn't know any of the women who were, I really didn't know any of the other, was it 4 women or 3? Maybe
I think we ended up with 4. Yeah.
4 of us. Yeah.
3 others. 4 total.
3 others. I didn't know the 3 of them at all. I'd never met them before, but I found myself, I think it was the day of, this is a moment, a period of growth, trying to grow here. But I actually like went to their Instagram profiles and I was like trying to like size up what I looked like compared to them in terms of body size, because I always like have this fear of like, what if I'm the largest person there, or, you know, and I'm saying that as somebody that doesn't live in a large body. So I started getting a little bit nervous, but I also like brought jeans that I knew I felt comfortable in. Like I wasn't trying to rock any like low-waisted skinnies. Don't even have any of those anymore. So I brought like clothes that like bottoms that I knew I would feel comfortable in. And then when we got there, I mean, and I met the 3 other ladies, I was like, fuck yeah. Like, I don't care if you see my tits. Like I felt really, really comfortable. And then getting behind the camera, I mean, I always feel like I'm a little bit awkward. That was the second time that you had taken my photo. And the first time you made me feel like a badass, but I just it felt so natural. And you had such a way of like giving direction and hyping me up, but not in like a way that made me question if you were just hyping me up to feel comfortable, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't like you were over
Sure.
the top, like, oh my God, yes, like this, oh my God, sexy, love. Like you didn't say any of that. It was just like this subtle, you look like this is powerful. And I could like feel, I felt like I could feel how good it probably felt for you behind the camera to be creating these moments for women, which I can't wait to hear more about that from you in a second. Um, and so I felt really, really good. Like I didn't think about my body a ton. You made me feel super freaking comfortable. The other women there made me feel really comfortable. They were so freaking funny. It was just a really good time. Like a lot of inside jokes were shared and it was hilarious. And then afterwards, when I got the photos, I mean, originally I was like, what? How did she do that? Like, there was one where you had us like flip our head back and forth, and our hair was like going all over the place. And I had my natural curls out that day. I was like, how did someone make me look that good when in the moment I was like, I'm gonna look like a dog with its head out the window. Like I was like, I'm gonna look ridiculous. But yeah, I think seeing the pictures, I haven't like shared a ton of them yet because they feel really special. They feel like super duper special. Um, and I feel like like when I look at them, a lot of times I can look at a photo and I can remember how I felt that day and I can see in my face how I felt. And typically it's, I remember not feeling good about my body and you can see it, right? But in this case, it's the
Yep.
exact opposite. Like when I see the photos, I remember how empowered I felt to be like half naked and feeling okay about it. And like I felt very beautiful and just okay. Like I felt like my body was enough and it was okay that day. So it was a very special moment for me, especially because I had just found out I was pregnant. I think I was like,
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
remember, maybe I was like 8 weeks,
6 or 7
six.
weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was early.
it was really early. I think I was like 6 or 7 actually, because it was right after my friend's bachelorette party. Yeah. So I was really early, and I think like I was starting to notice like my body changing a little bit. So I think the timing of it and just how you made me feel and the shoot in and of itself, like being topless, because again, it's like a kind of a big old like rebellious, risky little girl. It was a really powerful experience for me. So thank you for creating that experience for me.
Oh, I love hearing that. Especially the part about, remembering how you felt in the moment and feeling opposite of what you usually feel. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's so special to
Yeah.
hear.
And
Um,
it's
I
I was
oh,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
it's funny because shortly, I think it was before you posted on Instagram and asked for models, a student that I work with had shared that she had gone back home. She lives out of state. She had gone back home. She's a graduate student, and her one of her friends is like an art major of some sort and had asked her if she would be a nude model for her art project. And this
Oh,
student,
dang.
yeah, I know. And this student had like, she started meeting with me because she had a history of a disordered relationship with food and movement, but she was wanting to get back into movement in a healthy way. And so, like, relationship with body is still rickety, right? But I remember she came back from this weekend and she told me, like, yeah, I posed nude for a friend. And the experience that she shared is exactly the way like I felt behind your cam or in front of your camera. Um,
Hmm.
and I just remember thinking for her, like, this is fucking groundbreaking. The fact that you would get naked as part of it, like an art and be okay with your body becoming a piece of art. Like, I don't know if it was a drawing or a painting, but it was something like permanent, right? I
Right.
just felt like this is a huge indicator of growth. And then I remember feeling that same way about like myself being, doing this project with you. And I was just like, oh my God, she's growing. Oh, she's growing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so cool.
Mhm.
And I've been thinking about leading up to this episode, like a lot of the time when we talk about creative projects empowering women, it's like they're taking their clothes off. And it doesn't have to be that,
Yes.
I think the thing about that is, like you said, like feeling okay in your body enough to do that is so empowering. So I think
Hmm.
that's part of what plays into that. but it doesn't have to be that. You know,
Such a good
if
point.
putting on a pair of heels instead of your normal flats makes you feel like a bad bitch, like do that. Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
way of empowering yourself and just feeling better about yourself. But
Yeah.
um a couple things I wanted to kind of go back to that you talked about was, you know, how did I make you look the way, you know, when you said you were throwing your hair back and forth, like I didn't make you look any certain way. You know, that's how you look. And we just captured it. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that's a big benefit of photographic creative projects is we don't see ourselves the way other people see us. And
Yes.
so being in front of a camera gives us a chance to see ourselves in a different way, and see us how somebody else sees us. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's something that I love. And for me, I think these projects are, it's hard to explain how I feel when I do them or, you know, why I do them
Mm-hmm.
other than they just like light me up. Like I just get these like goosebumpy feel goods when I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's because I've been in that position before where being in front of a camera made me feel really good. And part of my why is making people feel confident enough in themselves to just forget what anybody thinks and just go friggin'
Mm-hmm.
live, you know, live the way they want to live. And so I feel like this achieves that in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I can give somebody that feeling, and for me, my strength or my way to do that is with my camera and with my photography,
Mm-hmm.
then I just freaking love that. And with my day to day, like my brand photography, it's giving women that sense of empowerment and feeling confident in their business and putting their business out there. Um, but with these little creative projects, that's honestly, it's as much for me as it is for like you guys, my models,
Mm-hmm.
because you know I get so much fulfillment out of that too. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, yeah.
I love that because I remember thinking when we were talking about this episode as like I don't I mean I think I can provide empowerment in different ways, but when it comes to like a creative project, yeah, no, that's not like I don't know what that feels like. And I was so interested to know like, you know, how it feels and that feeling of like lighting you up. It's I feel like that's a sign that like you're doing what you're meant to do when that's how you feel as a result of your work and like the what you create for women. And I can imagine it's like very validating. Like I feel really good to be doing this. And then to hear from your models or the women or people that you take photos of this felt really good. I felt so confident, especially knowing that that's one of the things that you are trying to create in your own life is feeling confident in the
Mhm.
body that you're in. And then to know that you are literally providing those moments for women to like feel confident in the body and the life that they're in is like, that's really fucking cool.
Yep. I think that's why boudoir is such a big thing, boudoir photos, is because it just lets women kind of feel that sense of empowerment um and I don't know that I want to be a boudoir photographer, but I think these creative projects are a way for me to kind of get that um same feeling from my photos.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked about this before on my Instagram, but I've done self portraits too, which is kind of my way to get myself in front of the camera and kind of
Mm.
feeling that sense of empowerment and confidence. And the first couple of times I did it, and even still when I do it, I just feel like just a big goof. And, you know, like, why am I doing this? Why am I going through the work of setting up my tripod and like to take pictures of myself? And then I'm going to
Oh, so
post pictures of myself.
you
Like,
do it of yourself.
yeah,
Okay, self portraits.
yes,
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
not flower top self portraits, but just self portraits in general. Um,
Boudoir self portraits for
That
Gerald.
would be another level. Um, but yeah, I've done self-portraits and you just feel stupid, and but then I see them and I'm like, "Ah, okay, like I like this." But then it's a whole nother like thing when I go to post it. My mind
Mm,
goes to like, are people gonna think like I like myself too much?
mm.
But then isn't that the freaking point, that we like ourselves? And so
Damn.
post the damn picture, right?
Wait a second. Say that again.
Isn't that the damn point to like yourself? Hell
Yes.
yeah, it is.
That's
Like
the
yourself,
fucking
girl.
point.
Post the picture.
I have never thought about, like, I've thought about the, if I post a selfie, people are going to think I'm obsessed with myself or like that I like the way I look. But I've never thought of it on the other side of, that's the fucking point. You're supposed to like
Yeah,
yourself. Like, that's what we're
like
trying to do
yourself.
here. What? I'm having a mind blown
Yeah,
moment. I have to like let this happens to me every once in a while and I have to like let it soak in. That is
I love
such
it.
a good freaking point. And I like that you mentioned that too, because I think you do such a great job, and probably a lot of people do that do the work that you do as a photographer or otherwise. But I notice myself, like I feel part of me is almost this is so perfect that you brought this up, and I didn't know that you were going to bring this up, but I think part of my hesitation for not having posted those flower power topless photos is like there's a part of me that obviously wants to share them because I mean, they're incredible. They're literally incredible. But then I'm also like, what are people going to think? And it's like
Yep.
you just reminded me that if they think that I like myself, that's literally my mission in life is to get people to like themselves, you know?
Yeah,
So like practice what I freaking preach and post those bad boys.
that's right. And that actually brings, that's what I was trying to remember earlier that I had forgotten was when you mentioned not posting them.
Mhm.
That's fine. Like pictures like that are not for other people. They are for you. You know, they are
Mhm.
meant to make you feel a certain way. And if it's easier for you, better for you to keep them to yourself, amazing. If you want to share them,
Mhm.
amazing. But yeah, the intent is not to plaster them all over the place if that's not your vibe.
Mhm.
But yeah, again, if that's your only hang up, then friggin' post them,
And
you know?
fucking post them. Yeah. I remember you mentioned that in a previous episode too, where you did like some maternity photos with your sister and you said like they were just
Yes.
like private ones. It's not like there was no intention of sharing them. But I wonder too if that was like a similar experience for you of like, again, in that case, you were nudie tootie or you didn't have as many
Yes.
clothes on. Not that you have to be, but yeah, I'm curious if that was like a similar experience for you.
In terms of like feeling empowered or in terms
Yes.
of like, yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely was. Because I had never done anything like that before. I wasn't even into photography at that point. My sister was. And so that whole world was not something that I was a part of. So, yeah, it was very empowering for me. It was like, yeah, I look
Mm-hmm.
good, even when I wasn't sure that I did because my body was
Mm-hmm.
so different. Um, so yeah, it was a cool experience for sure.
Yeah, that's really neat. So I'm curious, obviously photography is a great way that maybe folks can experience this like empowering feeling. I'm curious like how when I don't know like what your recommendations are. Like do folks should they just reach out to someone or do you think that there's other ways that we can go about like feeling that sense of empoweredness through creative projects? I don't know what comes to mind when you think about that.
Yeah, I was trying to think about like what other examples I would have for people because not everybody's going to want to get in front of the camera, and that's fine. I think it's all going to be dependent on your comfort level, your interests, and things. But one thing that I thought of would be like, if you're into writing at all, just going to like an open mic type, sharing a poem you wrote or sharing a short
Oh
story or
wow.
something, that puts you out of your comfort zone. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's really what it's about is being out of your comfort zone in some level and kind of overcoming that to give you that sense of empowerment.
Mm.
And for people that have, body image issues or have concerns about that, maybe being in front of a camera helps them get out of their comfort zone. And for some people, maybe sharing how they're feeling is
Mhm.
really difficult, and doing that in a way that feels maybe a little bit more comfortable because it's, in the form of a poem or a short story
Mhm.
that gets them out of their comfort zone
Mm.
somehow.
I love that. I had not thought about that before,
Yeah,
but I like the emphasis on doing something that gets out of your comfort, like that gets you out of your comfort zone. And I think that a lot of times doing those things that we don't think that we can do, and then we do them and we should prove to ourselves that like, oh, I can do this thing. Like that is empowerment. Like that
exactly.
feeling is it, you know? And I was even thinking about like, again, as it maybe relates to body image, like wearing something that in your closet that you never thought that you could quote unquote pull off, like, oh, I can't pull that off. Like that's not, whether it's a basic tee that's just a color that like not for you. For me, it would be like wearing hot pink. Like I cannot fucking pull that off.
Yeah.
Right. But maybe it's like wearing a bright color or like a pattern that is not like you at all, or, whatever it might be. But I wonder if even that could be like a step into doing something that's out of your comfort zone and seeing that like I can do this and I don't die and I feel good doing it, right? Like if you feel good wearing it, maybe it's a little bit like there's some apprehension there, but it's still, and I think like clothing can totally be a creative thing. I mean, it's not for me. I am very bland in my clothes, but I know my sister, for example, I think it's totally a creative thing for her to like see how pieces fit together. And so I even think about that as stepping out of your comfort zone with an item of clothing, whether it's shoes, a t-shirt, doing your hair a different way, right? So I love that emphasis on, it's really not about like necessarily getting in front of a camera. It doesn't have to be that way. It's just about doing something that you kind of want to do, but you're scared to do, that's going to be out of your comfort zone, and reflecting on how it felt to do that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, for sure.
That's beautiful. Well, for anyone who is interested in getting in touch with you, Randi, where can they find you? This is like a straight up interview. Plug zone.
I love it. So I'm very extra. I have 3 Instagram accounts, but the one that I use the most and the one that I use for my business is Randi Lee Photography. So it's RANDILEA photography. And yeah, that's where I'm most active, is on Instagram, and you can contact me there. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for my next creative, like I want to do another women's empowerment shoot, and I've had people ask about the flower one, which I may do again, but I also just want to try something different. So if you've got any ideas, shoot them my way, because I'm looking for some new ideas.
That. I have I have a confession. When you said that, I literally this is so ridiculous. When you said you're thinking about your next thing, I literally saw like women and lions, or like lionesses. Obviously that's not going to happen.
Oh my God.
But I saw myself like riding a lion. Like,
don't know that I could source a lion, but
oh my God, that's you say you're extra for having 3 Instagram accounts, and I'm like, I want to get on top of a lion. Like, no, what am I thinking?
Maybe we could put a mane on Lola and Murphy. And...
yeah. That's totally like something you would see on like Selling Sunset, like how
absolutely
she had like a freaking zebra at like her engagement party or whatever. Anywho,
absolutely,
yes. But your that Instagram page is also linked in our bio on Give 'Em the Bird podcast. So if you didn't catch it, go ahead and head to our podcast Instagram page, and you can just click on Randi's link in our bio there. But yeah, Randi, thank you so much for sharing this experience, and even having the idea of like talking about this, because I think it is absolutely worth it. Again, it's talking about empowerment. That's what really in GTB is all about, right? Like trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone, being uncomfortable and doing it anyways, right? And I think what you do, again, I can say this after being in front of your camera twice, it just makes you feel good. It makes the person getting their photo taken feel good, and it allows us to see ourselves in a different way. And so thank you for creating those moments for women all over the world.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for saying that. That's very
sweet. Love it. All right, everyone. Well, let us know what your thoughts are on this podcast. Definitely, if you haven't yet, go follow Randi's photography page. She takes the cutest brand photos, or like item photos. What is that called?
Product
photos. Yes. She takes the coolest product photos. And you might see me on her page sometime, because she has taken my photos before, but a great just example of how women can feel empowered in front of the camera. And then reach out to her if you have any questions about getting your photo taken, or what brand photography is all about. And yeah, share your thoughts with us on this one, and we will see you back here in another week. But in the meantime, go give them the bird.